Right, so listen to this, right? 350 days after his first game in charge, Thomas Tuchel is the first Chelsea manager in their history to get them into a Champions League, FA Cup and League Cup final.
Unbelievable.
Astonishing.
It's unbelievable because when he came in, and it's not been detrimental to Frank, you literally saw the change in 2 weeks. It was amazing. And what was said before is that Chelsea have very good players, but we weren't seeing it. This guy's come in, and a couple of players who were ostracised weren't involved. Straight back in, bam, bam, bam. I remember even Mason Mount was left out of the very first one. I don't know if it was a test or whatever it is, because he's not been left out too frequently since then. But everything that Tuchel has done has worked for them. He looks to be very focused, and for me, if they can get the Lukaku firing again and scoring, that yes, they like I said at the start of the season, I said Chelsea probably would win the league. Now, obviously, it looks ridiculous because City are 10 points clear, and you do feel that even if Chelsea win it, you can't see City slipping up too many in too many games. It's going to be tough, but Chelsea are, for me, the team that can chase them, just simply because of the way they're coached, how good they can be, and I think there's still more in them.
But they have to win it, Farah, don't they? I know they may still not have a chance, as Righty says, but they have to. They did that last season. I know it was a slightly different context because the league was already wrapped up, but they've got to go to the Etihad and get those 3 points.
Yeah, they have to. And look, I was like, right, I picked them to win the league. I thought, you know, especially after that Champions League final. And what Tuchel's done since he's come there, and you speak about the player. Look, Frank Lampard left behind a fantastic squad, so Tuchel's walked into a fantastic squad. But you've got to get those players to play, and he's been able to do that. And look, his early games at Chelsea were boring. Nobody liked, you know, as a Chelsea fan watching them, and it's 0-0, but we weren't conceding. And look, for me, he's been fantastic. I think, you know, if he can get 3 points, I can't see City losing, dropping 7 points after that, So I do think City will go on to win a league. But, you know, Chelsea need to be pushing, and Tuchel need to be pushing for that second spot and really try and climb away from Liverpool. It's going to be a tough ask. We've seen the dominance of City at Stamford Bridge early in the season. So yeah, they're going to have to go to that next level, as Righty said. Look, that I believe that Chelsea, when I watched them, and you know, I watched them in the first half live when Liverpool come last weekend. Fantastic, the intensity they played at, didn't deserve to go 2 goals down. They were phenomenal, but they don't take chances in moments when they're on top. So if they can perform anything like what they did in that first 45 against Liverpool, I think they've got a chance of beating City.
And if they are to get the points, Darren, they're going to need a big performance from Romelu Lukaku. Where do we sit in the Romelu Lukaku debate at the moment? I mean, look, when they spent nearly £100 million on him in the summer, after, 20-odd games, they would have expected more than 5 Premier League goals. I know he's had his little niggles and his little injuries, and he's had COVID and he's been struggling, but he hasn't made the impact that we all thought he would.
No, he hasn't, and I think that's going to be a big conundrum for them. I mean, there might be a little bit of a blueprint for what Thomas Tuchel might do. When you look at what Guardiola's done with Jesus, sometimes plays him on the right in the early games of this season where they demolished sides, and Jesus was basically coming in from that right-hand side to provide that added threat. Listen, you're asking me, you've got a legendary striker right here who can tell you probably more about how to get the best out of frontmen. But I'm going to just try to make a slight case for Chelsea and the league being open. As a newspaper man, I obviously want that to be the case. They've only failed to score once if we go back as far as September. So they know where the goal is. And I think as far as City and Chelsea are concerned, I mean, this is going to be one of those epics sporting rivalries, actually, between Guardiola and Tuchel, because they're two guys with big tactical brains. They fought out the Champions League final last year. Lots of people thought it was Guardiola's destiny to win the Champions League last season, and Tuchel managed to outwit him then. I look at the side this time around. Thiago Silva on the bench for the cup game on Wednesday night, Kanté on the bench for the cup game Wednesday night. I think if he starts, that's a huge, huge weapon for Chelsea because of his energy in midfield, his ability to smother attacks at source, and he will allow the offensive players to put pressure on City rather than Chelsea worrying about what City could do to them. So I think there is a chance that Chelsea could win, and I think there is a chance that they could put together a run in the second half of the season.
You know, the thing is, when you look at the way that they could play, Chelsea could easily let City come onto them and try and, especially, you got Kanté, you break it down, and he can break down play, and he's so good progressively with his passing forward. And then if you do then get Lukaku in that position where he's on that right-hand side or left-hand side, getting the ball, running at teams, then we've seen like we saw what Arsenal done to City, you can get at them, you can get to them, and you can hurt them. So you could easily see them playing like that. Or are they going to try and retain possession against City and see if they can play it through and get it through to Lukaku, which is not his real strength. He likes to run onto things, run onto chances. So it's going to be interesting to see how they.
Right, do you think they'll play
that.
with quick players? Do you think this is a game for quick, pacey players, Pulisic,
Absolutely.
Werner, guys who are going to break
Can't
on
be,
them,
Absolutely.
give them a problem really early?
They
Simply
commit
because-
so many bodies,
Yeah,
don't they, City? And this is the
exactly.
thing, and that's what Wrighty's talking about. And the likes of Lukaku that does like to go in behind, use his pace and power to get forward. Chelsea did that in the Champions League final. They allowed them the possession and they played counter-attack football. Man United did it against Manchester City last year. You have to play counter against Manchester City, unless you're pinning them in from a goal kick or whatever, and you play high and press up there. But once they broke that line and once they're in your half, you've got to be diligent in your defending, and you play counter-attack with speed and power.
You have to be brave enough as well, Farah, because you know that if you're going to try and break on City and you're going to give City the opportunity to continue to pass, then the defenders themselves, they can't leave those little holes in those little spaces that City like people to get into, and Mahrez and Sterling and all these people like to break into. So you have to cover those, but then you have to be able to, when you win the ball, it has to be very efficient in the way you break, because they'll win it back and they're straight back at you, trying to get the weak link. Where's the weak link? Where can we get in? So if you have got Pulisic and you have got the Lukaku, you can break Mason Mount. You've got these players. You then let City start thinking about it, and then you're hoping that you can make them start feeling a little bit apprehensive about what they're doing. And then once you do that, you then end up, you can beat City. But to get to that level, you have to go through so many hoops to try and get City to the point where they start to doubt themselves. And the way they do that is, like Farah's saying, with quality players, with pace, like Darren's saying as well, with pace, quality players, and people taking the chances when they come.
Yeah. And look, they've already started their revenge, haven't they, from those 3 defeats last season, Manchester City against Chelsea, under Thomas Tuchel. Obviously, they beat them under Frank, didn't they, 3-1 at the Bridge. But that game at the Bridge this season, I know it was only 1-0 with Jesus getting the winner, they absolutely schooled them, didn't they?
Yeah,
they were completely dominant, and you can only go off the last performance between the two.
Yeah, I mean, they look like worlds apart in that game. Look, they come to the Bridge and absolutely dominated. Kovacic and Kante's performance against Liverpool as a 2 in midfield against a Liverpool 3 was phenomenal. And if you can get them playing at anywhere near that level against Manchester City, they will cause problems. Not only do they know how to defend, Kante's like having 2 or 3 midfielders in there. The way he reads the game, I think he's so... We all talk about his off the ball. His on the ball is phenomenal. He can carry the ball forward, so he can travel with the ball and beat players. He gets into position to pass. He can play off one. He can take it in tight areas. He's honestly one of the most underrated with the ball. You only ever hear people talk about Kante off the ball, and it amazes me.
You know the thing with it is, Farah?
With him in the team, the team win. Look,
Yeah.
he goes to Leicester. He wins the league for Leicester pretty much. He comes to Chelsea, does the same. He wins He's won every domestic cup in England. He's an unbelievable player. He's so underrated.
The thing with him is because he's so unbelievable at reading.
Yes.
And knowing where the danger is.
Sniffs it.
It's, and we saw when he played for Leicester, he was like 2 players alongside Danny Drinkwater.
Yeah, it's crazy.
You know what I mean? It was crazy. So he was so phenomenal at that. People then think that, oh, that's what his main strength is. And this is why you see Sarri tried to do it with him, and Frank tried to do it, tried to get him playing in a position where they wanted him to win it higher, but they know that because of the caliber of player he is, how good he is with running with the ball, like Farah said, one-touch passing, scoring, they tried to move him forward. But then, you know what I mean? You think to yourself, why take, for me, arguably the greatest player I've ever seen play that position out of there when he can do everything what he's doing there? So he's going to have to put in those kind of performances against City. He's going to have to put that performances against City, because if he does that, they've got an unbelievable chance of beating them.
Yeah.
Unbelievable chance.
He's got to be one of, the more you think about N'Golo Kante, one of, if not the most prolific additions to the Premier League in the last 10, 20 years.
Crazy.
I think.
I know you could say Aguero and whatever, but
Yeah, but the thing
what he
is,
does,
because you talk about Aguero and the great players who have come, the Kante, all of those kind of players, he's way up there in what he's done on this league, and how he's performed as a midfield player, to the point where even you look at Makelele, who the position was named after doing that. Makelele literally did stop it at source, give it to Zidane. That's what he done. This guy's gone on to another couple of levels of that. It could be easily called the Kante position now, because I feel he does more in it. he's taken it to another level of the way he's done it. He's not just a holding midfielder, he's everything.
Yeah. I want to talk about Mason Mount with you, Darren, because my ears pricked up. Obviously, we remember when Frank was sacked and Thomas Tuchel came in, Mason Mount was sat on the bench quite a lot, and it took him a while to prove to him that he was the main man. Look at the importance that Mason Mount has on this Chelsea team. When we look at rankings, first, goals, first, all the way down there on everything on that column on the right. He's been prolific under Thomas Tuchel. When he's not in the team, they are a different Chelsea, aren't they?
Absolutely, they are. The interesting thing for me is going to be where he is deployed in this game, because I would imagine Tuchel will start with Kanté and Jorginho in front of that back three, which will be very experienced to Rudiger, Thiago and Azpilicueta, or maybe Christensen with Azpilicueta right wing back. So will Mount play on the right, or will he play in front of that midfield two? It'll be because we know how composed he is. We know how good he is at picking up positions in the box from which he can actually make those goal involvements. But where will he play him? Righty.
You know what's really good is, Darren, is just when you look at the positions he's taken up in all of those clips, they're all in the position. It's the way his movement, it's just a subtle movement, just a yard here, yard there. He's either in the box, he's just arriving in the box. You know, he's got all the movement that you think to yourself, if I leave him out, I'm losing too much. When you look at the goal involvement, and we saw the list, the goal involvement, everything, you're losing too much with him not starting. So for me, it will be interesting to see if he starts. He has to start.
But where does he start?
When you mentioned, I was thinking, where does he start? Look, he's somebody that I feel Chelsea are better with him in the team, but against a team that you're going to play on a counter-attack. But what he does have is right. He says he's prepared to do the run beyond. So he's somebody that if Lukaku was to be, get centre halves around him, he'll go beyond Lukaku. Yes, he's a little bit of pace. He play Werner off the other side, maybe Mount off the right-hand sside. He's just somebody that I believe is key to this Chelsea team.
Could he even play him as 8? Could he play him next to Kanté?
It depends what he plays. Does he play a box? Does he play a narrow, the 5 that he plays in a box 4 with Lukaku up top, and he'd be one of the 2 10s? It depends what he's... Look, and none of us can second guess what Tuchel's going to do.
You look at someone like him though, Farah. He could probably play 8, 10.
10, yeah, he could play anywhere. He could play anywhere. He's like...
And he's been mixing it up, Tuchel, recently. He went to a 4 at the back, didn't he? Then back to his 3-4-3, obviously, depending... Because the fact that they haven't got Chilwell and James has been out to change the whole dynamic of that team.
Definitely. I mean, I'm not comfortable when you look at the way, the style in which he plays and how in a 4, it doesn't look as comfortable for Chelsea. I do feel at times they look a little bit exposed, gaps, and but I don't think for 1 minute they're going to go up against this Manchester City team with a back 4. I think they'll go with a 5. Yeah. It's then just who they play. I think the question who plays alongside Kanté, because for me I'll go Kovacic. Darren, you mentioned before, maybe Jorginho, because of when in transition he's a player that sees those passes. It's those front 3. Lukaku for me has to play, but Kai Havertz is another player. For me against Liverpool, again phenomenal. Yeah. Unbelievable. He's got so much to his game. It just looks like it's a stroll in the park for him. He makes the game look really easy.
Yeah. That's quite a good point, because I mean, I know you mentioned Lukaku and they very helpfully put him up behind you, but it may be interesting to see whether he actually starts. Yeah. And whether there's more fluidity in that front line. If you have a Havertz, I mean, he scored a winning goal in the Champions League final. It helped him.
His movement's so good.
Werner's pace.
Yeah.
Werner's pace. You've got multiple points of attack. You've got Mount on the right side. They're interchangeable. They all understand each other's game. It gives City more to think about. Rather than if you play a point man who can easily either be marked out of the game or be denied the space to be able to, be denied the ammunition to be able to get beyond that back line. If you can be in a position where, as Tuchel, you can give Guardiola and his team so much more to think about, it makes the game that much more harder to
I think Havertz could be a better shout against Manchester City than Lukaku, and it's hard to say. Look, if you were to ask me early on in the season, Lukaku, when he was scoring and in form, he looks like a player. Even given what's
happened though, Cloud, sorry to drop you there, given the whole sort of Sky Italia interview or whatever, that would be massive if they left him out, wouldn't it?
Of course it would be, but he does look like a player that's lacking confidence. He does look like a player that's desperate to show that he wants to be there. When he played last week in the first leg against Tottenham, he was so desperate to show the Chelsea fans an apology in his performance. And in that desperation, you don't perform. When you're putting all this expectation on yourself, it's really hard then to deliver. And he was working hard off the ball, which we haven't seen often from Lukaku, and I think that's what he's trying to do, but that's not his game. And whilst he's in that frame of mind where he's trying to prove to the Chelsea fans, to his teammates, to the manager and the board, that actually I do want to be here. It was a genuine mistake. I was probably hurting through not playing, because we all get upset when we don't play. We all say things that we don't mean in a moment. But I feel like he's not probably at the levels that Havertz is at.
Yeah,
to play. We need everybody at the level to beat Manchester City.
100%. A lot of these Manchester City fans watching are throwing things at the telly. So what's this supply teacher doing? You've been talking about Chelsea for the last 10 minutes. Move it on. Talk about the champions and the champions elect.